In 1961, while the rest of Detroit was building cars, Imperial was building the future, and they put it all on the dashboard. It was called electroluminescence, a ghostly blue-green light that made every other car in America look like a relic of the past. Tonight, we look inside the most futuristic interior of the 1960s, the 1961 Imperial by Chrysler. Our story begins in the early 1950s at Chrysler headquarters in Highland Park, Michigan. A time of boxy shapes and conservative styling. Virgil Exner was hired with a single mission: rescue Chrysler from its reputation for building the most boring cars in America. Exner was obsessed with the flair of Italian design, looking to the likes of Ferrari and Lancia to redefine American luxury. The contrast was startling. On one side, the frumpy past, on the other, a low, wide, and aggressive future. In 1957, Exner's forward look erupted. Suddenly, Chrysler had the longest, lowest, and fastest-looking cars on the road. As the 50s ended, Imperial design reached a fever pitch. The fins grew higher, the chrome grew heavier, and the identity grew bolder. By 1955, Imperial was no longer just a model name. It was a standalone brand built to fight Cadillac head-on. The Eagle became the symbol of a new kind of luxury, one that wasn't afraid to be bold or even a little eccentric. The reveal took place in the grand ballrooms of America's finest hotels. The air was thick with anticipation and hairspray. When the curtains pulled back, there was an audible gasp. This wasn't just a car, it was a 5,000-pound sculpture. The most controversial choice: freestanding headlights, a direct tribute to the classic Duesenbergs of the pre-war era. The grille was equally dramatic, a split design with vertical bars that looked like they belonged on a high-end furniture piece. At nearly 19 feet long, it was one of the largest cars ever produced. It didn't just occupy space, it dominated it. The fins were refined, tapered, and elegant compared to the excesses of 59 and 60, but still unmistakably Imperial. Then there was the trunk, the famous toilet seat lid that remains one of the most recognizable rear-end treatments in history. Opening the door was like opening a vault. The hinges were massive, the sound was solid, and the invitation was irresistible. But the true genius of the 1961 Imperial wasn't outside. It was here, in the most breathtaking cabin of the decade. Materials were of the highest order, deeply pleated leathers and custom-woven fabrics that felt more like a lounge than a car. Even the door panels were works of art, featuring integrated armrests and power switches arranged in gleaming chrome bezels. But the true genius of the 1961 Imperial wasn't outside. It was here, in the most breathtaking cabin of the decade. It was a command center that wrapped around you, casting a ghostly glow that didn't just illuminate the gauges, it set the mood. And then there was the dashboard, a massive horizontal sweep that looked like it belonged on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. It was one of the largest unibody cars ever built, eliminating the heavy traditional frame for a stiffer, lower, and more spacious cabin. To your left, the legendary push-button torque flight transmission. No shifter column, no floor lever, just pure mechanical elegance. With a satisfying mechanical click, you were in gear. Many found it more intuitive and elegant than any traditional shifter. And then there were the swivel seats, a marvel of mechanical luxury designed for the most elegant of entries and exits. It was perhaps the most civilized feature ever fitted to an automobile. Pure theater, pure Imperial. In the rear, passengers enjoyed the same level of opulence with space that could easily accommodate a small party. The Crown Imperial limousine took it further, adding a glass partition and rear-facing jump seats for a mobile office experience. Even rear seat passengers had their own control panels glowing in that signature blue-green light. It was total environment control. But luxury needs power. Under that massive hood sat one of the most powerful engines of the era. Behind the style was substance. The 1961 Imperial was built at the Lynch Road plant in Detroit using advanced unibody construction. The signal-seeking radio would hunt for the strongest stations at the touch of a button, a miracle of 1961 engineering. The 413 cubic inch wedgehead V8, 350 horsepower, enough to move this 2.5-ton beast from 0 to 60 in just 10 seconds. It was as beautiful as it was powerful, paired exclusively with the 3-speed torque flight automatic for seamless power delivery. The secret was electroluminescence. No bulbs, no hotspots, just phosphor-coated plates that emitted light when energized. The freestanding headlights vanished. The push buttons were replaced by column shifters. the Imperial's unique identity began to fade. The Lincoln would win design awards for its less is more approach. But Imperial went the other way, choosing drama over restraint. And then there was Cadillac, the juggernaut, selling over 130,000 cars while Imperial fought for every single sale. In the luxury battle of 1961, there were three distinct paths. Cadillac was the established king, Lincoln was the clean-lined minimalist. Imperial chose theatrical design. It was a car for those who didn't just want to arrive, they wanted to make an entrance. The advertising called it America's most carefully built car. Every brochure emphasized the craftsmanship and the technology within. The incomparable Imperial. It was a tagline that felt earned, especially when you sat behind that glowing dashboard. The line began with the Custom, a slightly more restrained version that still offered every ounce of Imperial's space-age engineering. The mid-level Crown was the heart of the lineup, adding more chrome and even more luxurious interior choices for the discerning buyer. But the pinnacle was the LeBaron, a name with coach-building heritage representing the absolute ultimate in American opulence. Six-way power seats with memory settings, power vent windows. Over 30 individual electric motors and solenoids throughout the car. It was packed with magic features, like the automatic headlight dimmer that used a photocell to detect oncoming cars. The Imperial was a product of the new frontier. It reflected a nation obsessed with the space race and the promise of a technological future. When you looked at that dashboard, you weren't just driving a car, you were piloting a spacecraft through the neon nights of 1961. Today, only a handful remain in this condition, perfectly preserved time capsules of an era that dared to dream bigger. In 1961, Imperial didn't just build a car, they built a cockpit, a command center, a vision of what American luxury could be. 60 years later, that eerie blue-green glow still looks like nothing else on Earth. The future is still on the dashboard. But the era of theatrical design was coming to an end. By 1962, Exner was out, and Chrysler moved toward a more conservative look. While the exterior of the 1961 Imperial was a theatrical masterpiece, its true soul lay beneath the sheet metal, in the obsessive engineering and unparalleled luxury of its interior. In Part 2, we go deeper into the mechanical symphony of Chrysler's torque flight transmission, a system that removed the shifter from the floor and placed the future at your fingertips. It wasn't just electric switches, it was a complex dance of cables and linkages, offering a tactile precision that many drivers preferred over any traditional lever. Luxury was a matter of choice. Buyers could drape their Imperial in shades like Castilian red, a color that radiated power and confidence. Or they could choose the deep, jewel-toned emerald green, where the jacquard brocade fabric shimmered with an almost liquid quality under the showroom lights. For those seeking understated elegance, Duskin Beige offered a serene, airy atmosphere that made the massive cabin feel even more expansive. The legendary swivel seats were a marvel of mid-century hardware. A simple pull of a chrome lever, and the entire seat base pivoted 30 degrees outward. It was designed for the gala, the opera, and the country club, allowing for a level of poise and grace that no other luxury car could match. The LeBaron badge represented a lineage that once built custom bodies for Duesenberg and Rolls-Royce, a heritage Chrysler took very seriously. In the Crown Imperial limousine, the rear compartment was a mobile executive suite. Fold-down writing tables allowed for business to continue at 70 miles per hour. Privacy was absolute. A power-operated glass partition separated the elite from their chauffeur, creating a world of quiet isolation. Even rear-seat passengers had their own control panels, glowing in that signature blue-green light. It was total environment control. To achieve this level of luxury, the Imperial required over 30 individual electric motors and solenoids. It was the most electrically complex American car of its time. Innovative magic was everywhere. The automatic headlight dimmer used a photocell to see oncoming cars and instantly switch your high beams to low. Electric variable speed windshield wipers, power vent windows, and even an automatic trunk release, features we take for granted today, were miracles in 1961. The six-way power seat even featured position memory, allowing multiple drivers to return to their perfect setting at the touch of a button. The Imperial was a product of the new frontier. It reflected a nation obsessed with the space race and the promise of a technological future. When you looked at that dashboard, you weren't just driving a car, you were piloting a spacecraft through the neon nights of 1961. Underneath, the torsion air suspension used chrome steel torsion bars to provide a ride so smooth it was often compared to a magic carpet. The signal-seeking radio would hunt for the strongest stations at the touch of a button, a miracle of 1961 engineering. The 413 cubic inch wedge-head V8, 350 horsepower, enough to move this 2.5-ton beast from 0 to 60 in just 10 seconds. It was as beautiful as it was powerful, paired exclusively with the 3-speed torque flight automatic for seamless power delivery. In the luxury battle of 1961, there were 3 distinct paths. Cadillac was the established king, Lincoln was the clean-lined minimalist. The arrival of designer Elwood Engel marked the end of the Exner era. The curves began to straighten and the drama began to fade into a more conservative elegance. By 1963, the freestanding headlights were gone. The car was still an Imperial, but the theatrical magic was starting to simplify. By the 1970s, Imperial had lost its independent status, becoming merely a trim level once again. The nameplate was finally discontinued in 1975. A brief, ill-fated revival in the early 80s failed to capture the old magic, a ghost of the brand's former glory. Today, restoring a 1961 Imperial is a labor of love. The electroluminescent power supplies are notoriously delicate, requiring specialist knowledge to revive. But when that glow returns, it's like watching a 60-year-old dream wake up. It is the most beautiful lighting system ever fitted to a car. The 1961 Imperial stands as a monument to a time when Detroit didn't just build transportation, they built visions. Behind this wheel, you weren't just a driver. You were a pilot, a pioneer, and a person of undisputed taste. The 1961 Imperial dared to put the future on the dashboard, and 60 years later, that future still burns bright. One unforgettable dashboard, one incomparable automobile, the 1961 Imperial by Chrysler.